What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Rantin Review Pro Wrestling, and this is a news break. So apparently a lot of WWE fans, a lot of WWE producers, and a lot of WWE wrestlers weren't very happy with Monday Night Raw. There were two incidents on Raw where certain wrestlers, Liv Morgan being one of them, Edge being another, brought up the fact that people have been fired from the company recently as part of storylines. Now, Liv Morgan said that Becky Lynch's contract was so swollen. That is the reason why her friends were not there anymore. Her friends, of course, including Ruby Riott, who is Ruby Soho, who's now in AEW, and then Edge. In addition to making some references to MJF and the CM Punk skit from the other week, are also made a reference to the fact that The Miz, his former tag team partner, which they had split up anyway, but John Morrison was released from the company in his promo against The Miz. So this is a very weird thing for WWE to do. A lot of people say it's tasteless, but then again, it is WWE. They excel at being tasteless. It's referencing some of these other stars, though. I don't know if it's a smart thing or not, but we'll see what happens down the line. One thing that WWE officials are also kind of ticked off at is the attendance from this past week's edition of Monday Night Raw. 5,500 people or abouts attended the USB Arena, and that's okay. It's not great. It's a new arena. Probably should have been more. I remember, of course, the days when Raw would sell out in advance. We are far, 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 far away from those years. But the biggest problem with this is not the fact that only 5,500 people showed up and paid tickets to attend the show, despite them adding Roman Reigns and announcing that Edge was going to be there and giving 2-for-1 tickets and then 3-for-1 tickets. It's the fact that AEW has already outsold them for next Wednesday's Dynamite show, having sold over 8,000 tickets already. And again, that's next week, so it could go up to 9,000 to 10,000. Who knows? But that is rather embarrassing. But here is the latest WWE sweaty excuse. Jesus Christ. Delusion is a bad thing. You should seek mental help when you are this delusionally backing a corporation and the imaginary world of a corporation, that you would think that this is valid at all. And that is that Tony Khan has bought up thousands and thousands of tickets for the AEW show. Now, here's the problem with that, even if it was true, even if it could be true. Nobody would do that in their right mind except stupid sweaties who would say something dumb like this because everything's a conspiracy theory to them. You wouldn't do that because if Tony Khan bought 5,000 tickets for the AEW show, by the time the show comes on, you'd have an empty arena. That's it. If there's not... Look, the AEW Dynamite tickets aren't that expensive anyway. So that's probably more likely the reason, along with the fact that WWE's run multiple shows in the area. Although AEW did the same in Chicago and didn't have any problems, but whatever. WWE just has Survivor Series in the New York area. They just had a bunch of shows there. Some people might want to see something else. And they wanted to see AEW. AEW's tickets are cheaper. But then again, WWE did a lot of ticket deals. So there's all different kinds of ways in which you can spin this, but at the end of the day, AEW has sold thousands of more tickets in the same arena within the same week and a half period that WWE has. And yeah, that's not translating into the ratings yet. We'll get to the ratings in a little bit, but that's just not good for WWE. It's not a good look. If you outdraw, as far as the money that you're pulling in for your company, the competition 10-1, you should not be outdrawn by that same competition by them having almost double the amount of people attending their show in the same arena within the same week and a half period that you are. That's just what it is. WWE should be wiping out AEW, and they're not. Even with the fact on this next story that AEW's ratings haven't been very good lately. They've dropped to below 1 million for the last couple of weeks now. Last week was kind of there's a caveat to that because Thanksgiving week shows never do well anyway. It's part of the reason why we don't have Thanksgiving night Survivor Series and Starrcade stopped being on Thanksgiving night, because back in the day when you didn't have 9 billion cable channels and all of these streaming services, there was very few entertainment options at 8 o'clock on a Thursday Thanksgiving night. So going to a wrestling show, a big wrestling event, was a big deal. Nowadays, not so much the thing. There's a bunch of other stuff you can do and stay home and do that. So again, it's part of the changing demographics just within my lifetime as a wrestling fan. But this is not excuse the fact that Rampage has had abysmal ratings for several weeks now. They had the lowest rating of any Rampage this past week. The card wasn't the biggest star-studded card either, but even still, it was, I mean, it's a tape show. I think at this point in time, the Rampage seemed like a good idea at the time, but the problem with Rampage is it's following 2 hours of, I mean, people have already watched 2 hours of wrestling, most of them. The people that are watching the show are most likely AEW fans who are hardcore AEW fans and don't watch WWE. I think the crossover fans that probably add up for another 200,000 to 300,000 people that watch AEW. I think after 2 hours of SmackDown, and it's 10 o'clock at night, I'm tired of wrestling. I want to go out and drink or whatever. If you have a life. So yeah, no, I think that's part of the issue. And I've said many times that if they're going to TBS, Rampage should air at 6:05 p.m. on TBS. I think that's a good time. Might not work because it's been decades since that time slot was synonymous. It used to be a huge time slot for wrestling. You could draw 3 to 4 million people. The old Georgia Championship Wrestling, Crockett, and WCW Saturday night shows at 6:05 on TBS used to draw millions of people to watch it. And that was a studio wrestling show. So, but times have changed. It might not work, but I think Friday at 10 p.m. is just not a good time for a wrestling show. Case in point. Somebody who may be missing out on some stuff, or almost missed out on some stuff too, is New Japan Pro Wrestling, because up until yesterday, it was very unlikely that Will Ospreay was actually going to be able to make it to Wrestle Kingdom. So the Prime Minister Kishida of Japan announced on November the 29th that foreigners were banned from entering Japan from midnight on the 30th of November. However, things have changed and people have been able to move some stuff around. So Will Ospreay is going to be able to attend Wrestle Kingdom, but it was a little bit shaky there for a bit. Now, there was an interview for it. President Obari was talking about this after the last show at Korakuen Hall on the 30th, and he said, under the current rules, it is expected that foreign wrestlers who are regularly participating on the shows will not be hindered. I've heard regular foreign wrestlers have visas to work in Japan, so they will be treated as re-entry. This has been confirmed by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So Ospreay can come to Japan, and I also think this would include other people, although Jay White, who hasn't been in Japan since May, I'm getting a little bit sketchier about him actually being able to show up at the show, which is kind of crazy. It makes sense on one respect, and it's crazy in the other respect because Japan's COVID rates have really, really dropped. I mean, if you go look it up on Google, they are really, really low. They're almost to the beginning of the pandemic levels. So that's one thing to say, oh, well, they should let people in, but it's another thing to go, well, wait a minute. They probably don't want a spike coming back in by allowing foreigners to come back into the country now that they've gotten their stuff mostly under control. The United States is still back up and some other countries are still back up. So they may be the reason why they're limiting foreigners. But I think, if you got like 20 guys coming in from the UK, Mexico, and the United States, and they go through quarantine and everything else, I think you can get Ospreay and the Gorillas and Jay White and Fale and whoever else that is coming from overseas into Japan for Wrestle Kingdom. So we'll have to see that. We'll have to see how that pans out. But right now, the scare is over. But for about a 24-hour period, it looked like the main event of the second night of the Tokyo Dome might not have happened. But that's it for now. That's all the news for today here on the Rant Review Pro Wrestling. If you guys enjoy these videos, let me know in the comment box below. Let your voice be heard. Please hit that like button, subscribe button, and notification bell. And definitely share this video on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, wherever you talk about New Japan, WWE, AEW, and pro wrestling in general. I will see you guys soon for more news, rumors, and commentary right here on the Rant Review Pro Wrestling. Have a good day.